You were told a story before you could question it. By the time you were old enough to ask who was telling it, you were already living inside it. Look around you. You have access to more information than almost any human being who came before you. Every fact, every language, every theory, centuries of accumulated knowledge sitting in your pocket. We know how to build cities. We know how to move money across the world in seconds. We know how to organize entire populations through laws, institutions, markets, and systems. We can record, store, and retrieve more information than any individual could consume in a lifetime. We can spend decades studying history, economics, technology, politics, almost endlessly, and still, we are afraid. Still anxious, still exhausted, still divided from people we have never met, for reasons we did not choose, still willing to call a stranger an enemy because of the flag behind him. So perhaps we have been asking the wrong question. What if the problem was never that we didn't know enough? What if we were taught exactly enough? Almost 2,000 years ago, a Gnostic text called the Gospel of Truth described ignorance in a strange way. It did not say ignorance simply hid the truth. It said ignorance produced anguish, terror, a fog so thick that no one could see. And then error did something extraordinary. It began to build. It shaped something powerful, something beautiful, something convincing enough to stand in the place of truth. Something else was placed where truth should have been. Not emptiness, not silence, a substitute, a functioning reality, a world with names for everything, reasons for everything, explanations for everything, except the one explanation that would reveal that the entire structure was incomplete. The Gnostics believed this lower order had administrators. They called them the archons, and perhaps their greatest achievement was not preventing humanity from knowing. Perhaps it was creating a world humanity could know endlessly, without ever seeing beyond it. The perfect deception is not a lie you believe. It is a world in which you no longer know there is anything left to question. And once that world exists, it needs something to organize it. Names. The Gospel of Philip goes directly into this problem. It describes names that can redirect perception, names of good things attached to what is not good. But its message is subtler than saying language itself is evil. Truth, it says, does not enter this world naked. It comes through images, symbols, forms, names. The name was never the problem. The problem began when you forgot the name was only a garment and started believing the garment was the thing underneath it. Watch how early it begins. A child enters the world. No country, no political party, no historical enemy, no concept of national pride, no understanding of which side of a border is supposed to be home. Then the naming begins. This is your country. These are your people. This is your religion. These are your heroes. This is your history. This is what someone like you believes. And those people over there, they are different. Eventually, the categories stop being things the child has learned. They become things the child believes he is. The spell is not that the label is fake. The spell is that you forgot it was a label. Imagine two children born on the same morning, perhaps 50 kilometers apart, an hour's drive. One grows up beneath one flag, the other beneath another. One inherits one religion, the other inherits another. One receives one version of history. The other receives the same history from the opposite side. Each learns different heroes, different wounds, perhaps even different enemies. And 20 years later, both may defend those inherited identities with absolute certainty, maybe even with their lives. Would you have defended the opposite identity with exactly the same certainty had you been born somewhere else? The real mechanism was never the 50 kilometers. It was when the story arrived. The identity moved in before the mind that could question it had fully formed. The map was handed to you before you knew there could be other maps. And by the time you were old enough to ask who drew it, you were already standing inside it, defending it. The spell is not that history is fake. The spell is forgetting that someone arranged the history into a story. And once the story becomes identity, something remarkable happens. The system no longer needs to defend itself. You begin defending it. This is where the Apocryphon of John introduces one of the darkest ideas in Gnostic thought: the counterfeit spirit, something that imitates the true spirit, something close enough to the real thing that the human being may follow it while believing he is moving toward freedom. Think about what that means. The deepest prison would not merely prevent you from awakening, it would give you something that feels like awakening. You escape one certainty and immediately enter another. You discover one authority was false and surrender to the next authority promising the truth. You reject one ideology and allow its opposite to define you completely. You tear off one label and build your entire identity around being the person who no longer believes in labels. You begin to believe that you are finally awake, that you see what everyone else cannot, that you have reached the final explanation, and slowly you stop questioning again. You wake from one dream inside another dream. Perhaps that is the most sophisticated prison of all, not one that keeps you asleep forever, one that allows you to wake up just enough to enter a better dream. A dream in which you are absolutely certain that you are awake. The greatest enemy of Gnosis was never ignorance alone. It was knowledge that made ignorance feel complete. The same Gnostic vision speaks of forgetfulness, of fate, of measures, seasons, times, a lower reality organized so completely that existence itself appears to arrive already divided, categorized, and explained. The Archons did not merely build walls, they built a framework, a structure within which every question already has a permitted shape. The Archons did not need to prevent humanity from thinking. They only needed to give humanity the categories within which it was allowed to think. And the most disturbing part is that the Archons themselves are described as blind. Yaldabaoth, their chief, declares, "I am God. There is no other beside me." Perhaps he is not merely deceiving everyone beneath him. Perhaps he genuinely believes it. He cannot see beyond his own creation. The architect has mistaken his building for the entire universe, and suddenly the mechanism becomes much more frightening. Because a false reality does not need to be maintained entirely by liars. It can be maintained by believers. The person teaching you the map may never have seen outside it either. Your parents inherited it. Their parents inherited it. Teachers learned it before they taught it. Institutions received it from older institutions. Each generation hands the structure to the next, not believing they are passing down a prison, believing they are teaching reality. That is how a system can survive without anyone standing at the center controlling every piece. The story begins to tell itself. The map reproduces itself. and the prisoner becomes one of its guardians. Create an us, create a them, give both a history, give both a wound, give both something sacred, give both something to fear, then step back. The labels can do the fighting themselves. Human beings will kill people they have never personally hated while believing they are protecting who they are. The deepest prison is not the one you cannot leave. It is the one you believe you must defend. The prisoner starts guarding the prison, and here is where the deception becomes almost perfect. The system does not need to fear your intelligence. It can afford you brilliance. You can master economics, law, history, technology, politics. You can become an expert on every road inside the city. You can spend your entire life studying the map. You can argue over its borders, memorize its landmarks, become famous explaining how it works, and never once ask, who drew it? They did not keep you ignorant. They gave you an ignorance so sophisticated that you mistook it for knowledge. Because information does not necessarily threaten the frame. You can pour endless information into a structure without ever questioning the structure itself. Information expands your knowledge inside the map. Gnosis makes you question who drew the map. And perhaps that is why Gnosis was dangerous, not because it gave humanity another fact, but because it changed the position from which humanity was looking. Forbidden knowledge is not secret information, it is accurate sight. Gnosis does not necessarily destroy the labels. The country may remain, the religion may remain, the history may remain, the institutions may remain. You can still use the names. You can still read the map, but you no longer confuse the map with everything that exists. You can carry a label without believing the label contains the entirety of you. You can participate in the story without forgetting that it is a story. And once that happens, something fundamental has already broken. Because the first thing Gnosis destroys is not necessarily the prison. It destroys the certainty that the prison is all there is. They did not need to hide the prison. They only needed to teach us a reality in which the prison had no name. They gave you enough knowledge to navigate the prison. They withheld the knowledge that would reveal it was a prison. And perhaps that was why accurate sight had to become forbidden. Because the moment you recognize the walls, even if you are still standing between them, you are no longer completely inside them.